RKB Digital Media presents Blowing Smoke with Brown Man Thinking Hard. Today's topic, Racial Discrimination, the reality show. I've been watching the political pundits on TV lately as they make their obligatory references to African Americans, race, and racism. They seem to do it as casually as if they were checking off a to-do list at the grocery store. So I wondered, what actually goes through the mind of someone who is not a descendant of a historically oppressed minority when they think about discrimination? Because even if you've watched Roots and the PBS specials on Jim Crow and the network specials on the civil rights movement, they mostly provide an outsider looking in kind of experience if you're not black. American culture has downplayed the intense horrors of racial discrimination so successfully that the whole despicable enterprise is now often characterized as a benign, temporary form of racial exile, its effects to be sloughed off as easily as a non-slave descendant forgets about a traffic ticket they paid. So I figured, since we have reality shows about everything else, why not have one that shows its contestants what racial discrimination looked like over the years? Imagine, if you're white, that you volunteered to pretend that you were a slave for a reality show where black people are the slave owners. You are chronically hungry and run down from the substandard food you eat. The blacks are all armed with double-barrel shotguns to be holstered at their side for instant access. They also have .22 caliber rifles, which they are required to keep cocked at all times. The black people have been instructed to shoot at you randomly with the .22 rifles. They are to shoot at you while you are working, or eating, or resting. They are to occasionally graze a toe, an arm, or one of your ears. The black people have also been instructed to cock their shotguns at least 3 or 4 times a week, just to remind you why you put up with being shot at with the smaller gun all the time. Subliminal tapes play in your slave huts at night, tapes that reconstruct your past, explaining to you that all of your forebears had been treated the same way, that they had passed down secrets on how you could turn sideways so that the bullets from those .22s wouldn't take off your entire earlobe, that you really didn't need 10 toes anyway, and that in the afterlife, if you were somehow lucky and your black master's aim was off and he shot you in the head or the heart, you might finally get to stop worrying about how that shotgun blast would feel when it hit you in the back, if you had ever decided to run away. The subliminal voices in your hut would switch gears about 4 a.m., shifting into a frenetic sing-song cadence, reminding you over and over that your future would be no better than your past, that for you, unceaseless toil and weariness were the best you could ever hope to achieve, the best that your children and your children's children could hope to achieve. As the show season progressed, you would be emancipated. You would be happy for a little while until you realized that you were working for the same black folks that you were before, only now they paid you a few coppers they would get back when you paid them rent on the very same shacks you used to live in for free. Most of you still wouldn't be able to read. You probably wouldn't even really believe you were free. After all, those black folks would still be shooting at you with those .22 rifles, even though it was now against the law. Jim Crow would change these rules a little. The shotguns would still be there, but now the blacks would have to account for all the shells they discharged. The .22 rifles would be exchanged for pellet guns, and all day long you would feel the pock, pock, pock of the little pellets biting into your skin. Your flesh, after years of pelting, would actually become thicker until you felt like you were wearing a second coat of skin. You would learn to keep your head down to protect your eyes. You would learn to keep your mouth shut to keep from getting your teeth chipped. In the 60s and 70s, just before the season's last episode, all of your black oppressors would lay down their weapons on the ground in front of you, just to show you ex-slaves that they could now be trusted. Not because they really wanted to, but because the government made them do it. With such a huge undertaking, it would be impossible to collect each and every weapon, and there would still be quite a few blacks who would secrete pellets in their pockets, intending to keep throwing them at you by hand from time to time. The 80s and 90s would be the big finale. It would show the black people inviting you and your newly educated, conservatively dressed brethren into their high-rise offices, into their country club dining rooms, and even into their gated communities. Not in huge numbers, but enough for you to see they were at least trying to make a difference. The blacks would continue to watch you like a hawk, though, just in case you had retained any of those tendencies your kind were known to succumb to. And every once in a while, just when you'd gotten used to this new life, one of those damn pellets would ping you out of nowhere. To equate the racial ignominy of slavery, Jim Crow, and separate but equal laws to a traffic violation of sorts, where America's record of racial discrimination could be wiped clean because the judge simply threw the case out? This is the very definition of insanity itself.